Welcome to episode 728 of Salsido Paranormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight I'm sharing experiences. As always, you can find all episodes of the show along with links to social media and other ways to contact me at the podcast page. That is salsidoparanormal.podbean.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.podbean.com. Always happy to hear from you all, whether you have comments or questions or topic suggestions or accounts of paranormal experiences, whether they're your own or from others that you trust. Happy to either read those or have you join me on the show to talk about them. Thank you all for listening, whether you are here for the live recording streams on Discord, or if you listen to the podcast or YouTube feeds, or on the Troubled Minds Radio Network, KUAP, Digital Broadcasting. There you can hear replays of 2 episodes of my show every night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, right before Troubled Minds Radio comes on. And as always, I want to thank Michael Strange, host of Troubled Minds Radio, for having me on the network and putting my shows up there. If you'd like to support my show, you can share the show with others and rate and review it on your favorite podcast platforms. You can find books I've written over on Amazon, paranormal fiction and nonfiction. You can also sign up for the Patreon page and get all the extra content there that I've released before, plus a new monthly show that we just did the first recording of at the beginning of this month of February. And you can also always make donations, one-time donations through PayPal. Support is never expected, but always appreciated, as there are expenses in making these shows, from equipment to research materials to travel expenses in some cases. I think that takes care of everything. Again, just a quick sort of a programming or labeling note here. I'm changing the old name, which I use for these shows, which is True Paranormal Stories from the Web. I'm changing that to experiences so that I can include some keywords or a phrase from the true stories in the episode title, and make it a little more, make the show hopefully a little more marketable and all those things to hopefully get more people to listen in. So that's starting with these shows here, and I think that takes care of everything. So let's get back to the file here where I keep all these and go from there. Let's see. So I just finished that one. All right. Moving on here. Okay, this one says, I recently lost 3 neighbors in the past 3 months to different diseases. The losses have been emotionally difficult, as I knew them growing up. One of the deceased was a woman who lived in a bungalow next door. Her husband is now the only one living in the bungalow. While coming downstairs to make a cup of tea, I went to the sink to fill the kettle. I saw a figure in I guess a cream, so they say a cream, so I guess it's a color, a cream jumper walk into the bungalow for a split second before it disappeared. I believe the figure was the deceased lady from the bungalow, checking on her husband. The whole experience was bittersweet, and that's where that one ends. Sounds like it's possible they could have seen the spirit of that person that had passed, or it could have been a residual haunting, a residual energy, sort of a just a recording in the environment of her doing that, her sort of coming home from whatever. It's weird how those work. I don't know how or why it happens sometimes and doesn't happen other times. And I don't think anyone really can know for sure. Of course, the idea with residuals is that it's always something because of something that happened that was terribly traumatic, but there are so many reports of others where It's just someone going about their ordinary daily life activities. And so I don't know that that's the traumatic nature of an experience is always going to generate that kind of energy recording. Just as I don't think every mundane activity anyone does will generate one either all the time. Or it could always also have to do more with the sensitivity of the person who is having the experience as well. It could be that these things happen more often than we know. We just don't notice them all the time. So a lot of possibilities there. Time anomalies are also possible. It could have been that person alive, but from a different time period, just going back into their home for whatever reason. So really hard to say, but it's good that nothing else really happened that was negative, and it made the writer there feel better. So that's also not a bad thing. So a neat sighting there. So moving on to the next one here. This one, let's see here. Okay, this one says, let me see. Okay. My cabin is an old house, and I think it is haunted. It is accessible by car only in the summer. But in the winter, you have to walk 1 kilometer to reach it. That would not be a home for me. Anyway, I get a cold feeling of being watched in certain rooms. I hear doors opening at night, but when I check on them, they're still closed. I often hear sounds of footsteps and general activity upstairs. I use headphones, alternating when one runs low on battery. I guess they mean they use 2 sets of headphones, to listen to streaming platforms to drown out the noise at night. I usually fall asleep with headphones on to avoid being disturbed by the sounds. The other night, I heard a loud noise upstairs, as if someone had fallen to the floor. The sound was so loud, it penetrated the headphones. The dog reacted strongly to the noise, ears back, wide eyes, indicating fear. This cabin was once used as a permanent home a long time ago. Fear of ridicule has stopped me from sharing these experiences with others. What do you all think about this situation? I apologize for any errors in my writing. English is not my first language. And that's where that ends. And just a note on that, even from I always sort of edit these a little bit to make them easier to read and things like that without changing any of the details of the experience. But their English was just fine in that entire post. So just shows how hard this language can be. But yeah, that's a whole other discussion. But it sounds like the place that they're staying in is active. I'm hoping it's residual things like the sounds and everything, especially with the doors. The sounds of the doors opening and closing, and when they haven't been moved when the writer there checks on them. I've told this story before about what used to be at my cousin's house. That was one of the things as my cousin and I were getting older. When I was there a lot, almost every weekend, when we were teenagers, we'd be upstairs playing video games or whatever in my cousin's room, and we'd hear the sounds of doors opening and closing on the ground floor. And that we'd know that there was no one else in the house at the time. His parents would be out of the house. It'd be in the middle of the day, not even at night. And his siblings were not there. One of them had already moved out at that point. I think maybe even both of them at that point. Anyway, we'd hear these sounds and there'd be no one else in the house with us. And we did go down and check the first few times because we didn't know what was going on. There was no the room that my cousin was using at the time was right above the garage. So anytime anyone pulled up to the house, we would hear it from that room. And we never heard or saw any vehicles pulling up for there to be anyone walking in the house. So it never made sense. And we'd had other experiences there, of course. I've talked about all those before. And eventually we just stopped checking on everything because whenever we checked, we'd go down there, the sounds would stop, first of all, and then the doors would all be the way they had been. And we just sort of wrote it off as just more weirdness in the house. And eventually it stopped. So yeah, that's a weird thing. And I like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if it was more just energy fields that are acting as recordings of or playback of previous events that happened in the house. Since it doesn't sound like there was any other activity, no sightings of anything right by the person, they didn't, other than the feeling of being watched, that is kind of weird, but that can also be, I don't know, sometimes that can be caused by faulty wiring or too much energy coming from all the wiring and the outlets and all that. So it's hard to know. It could be a mix of both. It could be a mix of someone actually being there, trying to get their attention, or someone just being there, just using the house to stay in for brief times, and then you still have the other things going on at the same time. It's hard to know with any of this for sure, of course. So, but yeah, that sounds like a lot going on there. Hopefully it calms down or the person is able to get out of there at some point if they really need to, because that's not good for it to be disturbing their sleep either. Moving on to the next one here. And okay. Scrolling down to find this. And all right. This one says, I am not typically interested in or focused on the paranormal. My father passed away a few years ago, and I thought any potential paranormal experience would involve him. I live in an apartment with my husband and our 2-month-old son. We moved in March, approaching a year of. We're approaching a year of living there. There were no unusual occurrences for most of our time here until the past month. While feeding my son at 3 a.m., I saw a straw in a cup circle and move as if blown by wind. It made a noise, but I thought I was just imagining things because I was tired. One night, on our baby monitor, we saw signs of motion and a flash of light around 1:30 a.m. The light disappeared quickly. I showed the footage to others, who agreed it was strange. This last event happened on my first night alone in the apartment with my son, as my husband had to be away for the night. After feeding my son from 3:30 until 4:30 a.m., I felt a cold rush of air through my body as I lay in bed, reading, trying to fall asleep. A spirit communicated telepathically, asking questions about a daughter. I don't know if the spirit mistook my son, for a female or was referring to a future daughter that we hope to have. The spirit expressed frustration about a doorway and a pocketbook, but was unclear. When I asked for clarification, the spirit said, I'll come and show you. I heard footsteps in the room, and a shadow appeared near the built-in closet before everything vanished. I searched online for advice on handling paranormal encounters. I followed suggestions to politely ask the spirit to leave while expressing gratitude. I did this when feeling cold air again, 20 to 30 minutes later, and nothing else has happened. I am freaked out, but I'm trying to remain calm as I try to understand the situation. What do you all think? Do you have any advice as to how I should handle this? And that's where that one ends. I'm hoping that they already handled it. It sounds like maybe they did with just asking whoever was there to leave them alone. It seems like after they asked that, asked this of whoever was there, it seemed to work. Hopefully, it continues to work. The telepathic thing is odd, but not the first time I've heard that. And again, it could be someone that was there before. It sounds like, I mean, pocketbook would imply some kind of like checkbook, I guess, or maybe important documents that, again, going back to the idea of people in spirit form after they passed, having unfinished business and trying to take care of things after they passed. But I mean, depending on how long ago it was that they were there, that pocketbook or whatever was there in that closet area, it sounds like that's where they were going to, with the shadow and the footsteps and everything. It might be long gone by now. And of course, I've heard so many accounts of beings that, in spirits or ghosts or whatever consciousness, that is not aware of time in the same way that we are. So it may be that whoever it was didn't mean any harm. They were just trying to handle their own sort of business but then still, again, having these unforeseen consequences on the person they were trying to communicate with. And of course, the writer there had to ask them to leave them alone. And so yeah, it's that's the thing about so many of these accounts. It's not like what you see in the movies. It's not necessarily always some evil spirit or demon or whatever that is out there trying to attack anyone. It's more complicated than that. It seems like in so many cases. So, and it sounds like, again, hopefully that they already handled it, and hopefully nothing else happens there. So, because it sounds like nothing else did after they asked, which is, to me, a good sign that whoever was there didn't realize that they were causing problems for the writer there and their family. So, the baby monitor thing is, I've heard and read about that before. You see that online, a lot of videos and things that are supposedly cameras, baby monitor cameras that show things. And of course, when it comes to videos online, it's so hard to tell. It's hard to know what's being faked or exaggerated or whatever, but it seems to be a thing that does happen. Except this is not the first time I've heard of that before. Of strange sounds or images caught on these baby monitors. And again, it's not like the movies where it's all terrifying, it's all negative, it's just weird things seem to happen. So I'm going to stop there with that one just so that we can at least get one more in here before we stop for this episode. And because that way, at least we've got a few in here. Okay. This one says, my girlfriend and I were in separate rooms at home in our apartment. I was in the living room watching TV while she was in the bedroom drawing on her tablet. I was dozing off in my chair when my girlfriend came to check on me and suggested I come to bed. I agreed, but decided to watch TV for another 10 minutes. 5 minutes later, my girlfriend asked if I had gone into the bathroom. I said no. I had been sitting in the living room the entire time. She insisted she saw someone who looked like me walk into the bathroom. She described seeing my forehead, nose, and skin under my eyes, but the rest of the figure was dark. The figure walked into the bathroom without turning on the lights or closing the door. Excuse me. After 30 seconds, she checked the bathroom, and it was empty, despite hearing heavy footsteps. She saw the figure walk around the corner, pause for a second, and then enter the bathroom. So I guess they're recapping what happened there. She could see the face clearly during that pause. The TV light illuminated the closet door, making it strange that she only saw parts of the figure and not the whole thing. This hallway leads from the living room to a closet at the end with a short right and left turn. The second bedroom is to the right, and the main bedroom is immediately to the left, with the bathroom directly to the right of the bedroom. We occasionally practice white and gray magic, but we do not engage with dark arts or summon dark powers. The planets were in alignment that night, and I wonder if that could have amplified the energy around us somehow. We planned to sage the house, but the sage mysteriously went missing. I am unsettled by the experience and wonder if you all can tell me what is going on. My girlfriend's detailed description of seeing a doppelganger-like figure adds to the mystery. And that's where that one ends. So you have reports of two people seeing identical versions, or at least somewhat identical versions of each other in the same place at around the same time. It reminds me of another story from a while back where, well, we don't have time to get into it, but a similar experience on a previous show I shared. Not myself, but a previous experience that was from a post online. All these things seem to happen, and it's really weird how that works. Regarding the things that they do, that's all up to them. I have no problem with that. I don't, again, just like in the movies, I don't believe that magic or that rituals or practices are automatically evil. So, and then also the mentioning the planets being aligned in a certain way. I do wonder how much that has effects on things that happen around people and the planet, the whole planet in general, and all that. So, but unfortunately, that is all the time we have for this episode. Thank you all for being here and listening, and I will talk to you all the next time on Salsido Paranormal. Take care.